The House of Baniei is an architectural monument of national interest, being the oldest civil construction in Craiova. The building was reconstructed at ruler Constantine Brâncoveanu's initiative in 1699 on the spot of an older edifice from the 15th century belonging to the great Craiovesti boyar family. The House of Baniei is located in the central area of the city near St. Demeter Metropolitan Cathedral. It is the only monument of Brâncoveanu art in the region of Oltenia, having a statute of civil building. Some of the walls are 300 years old and some are over 500 years old. At present, the construction, built on brick walls, has 3 floors, still preserving some of the initial structure. Historical accounts record that the Council of Craiova assembled here while, during the Austrian occupation between 1718 and 1739, the House of Baniei becomes the administration headquarters, being fortified for defense. In 1750, the building is assigned by ruler Grigore Ghica to the Râmnic episcopate. Starting with 1850, the building becomes the premises of different state institutions such as Craiova's Law Court, the Buzești Brothers Secondary School, the local seminar, and the state archives. Since 1933, the building shelters the Museum of Oltenia until 1948, when it passes to the Metropolitan Church of Oltenia. From 1966, the old monument of Brâncoveanu architecture hosts the ethnography section of the Museum of Oltenia, comprising an invaluable patrimony of over 9,000 items grouped on collections. The visitor of Baniei House has the opportunity of entering the world of popular traditions of Oltenia through the thematic exhibitions of the ethnography section of the Museum of Oltenia. The first hall we enter is dedicated to the everyday traditional work of the Romanian peasant on the rich grain fields. The exhibition about baking bread is, in fact, a specific representation of growing wheat in Oltenia, a province with a strong agrarian characteristic. As a historical location, it is about the central region of Oltenia at the end of the 19th century and the first half of the 20th. There are shown a few specific operations for growing wheat, among which ploughing using 2 or 3 couples of oxen, and also the necessary equipment to tend the crop, such as different types of harrows made of brambles, wood, or just metal. All these household objects perfectly illustrate the yearly cycle which the peasants passed most of the time toiling in the fertile fields. The curators consider that the visitor should know and go through the stages up to the ritual bread, a reason why the next exhibition is called From Reaping to the Ritual Bread, arranged in the next hall, also in the semi-basement. After reaping, there follows threshing, an event with a profound significance in the life of the Oltenian traditional communities. So, the route of the visitor continues with the presentation of the means of depositing wheat. In the matter of grinding wheat, a few traditional tools show archaic techniques, but also some more advanced ones. There are exhibited 19th century grinders and a manual mill based on a modern system of gear wheels. In the same context, there is presented a full-scale bucket mill from the north of the region. Naturally, beside the large machinery, there are also exhibited smaller tools made of wood or metal, such as pitchforks, scythes, or rakes. Then, after getting the grains, the peasants transported and deposited them in the household. A place apart was held by the daily baking of bread in the oven, a highly sacred custom which each housewife carried out piously. The hearth represents for the Oltenian peasant the sacred place of the house and, at the same time, the place that must be protected against evil spirits. That's why it was compulsory for the Oltenian peasant households to have a hearth seal and an icon. The house entrances and exits were thus protected, that is, the thresholds, by these sacred objects. At the same time, the hearth was the place where the daily bread was baked, but mainly the ritual bread for holy days. The visitor can see here the whole range of ritual products in a multitude of forms and decorations, each with its well-defined role in the religious celebrations in the course of the year. The inventory of an Oltenian rustic hearth includes, in quite a small place, very many wooden, ceramics and metal objects like pots for cooking, pots for preserving food, mugs for drinking water or wine, vessel for lard, bowls, dishes, spoons, the water bucket, knobs and jugs for water, and sometimes even an iron with charcoal. Continuing our visit, we can admire in the Oltenian ceramics exhibition the main landmarks of the Oltenian pottery in regions such as Sisești, Glogova, Arcani, Ștefănești, Pinoasa, Horezu, Oboga and Vlădești. It is a synthesis of ceramics and pottery of Oltenia, unique in its diverse nuances it implies, but linked among them by the wealth of forms and ornaments. Presenting the Oltenian ceramics in such a place offers the public the occasion to study the materials and techniques, the variety of forms, of refined decorations and colors of the Oltenian pottery. There are exhibited jugs, plates, human figures, which are both old and newer items belonging to the last 100 years. We admire the ritualistic and symbolic values of the traditional ceramic objects, referring to the wedding jugs and flasks, to the bowls of burial rituals, and to many other symbolic aspects that prove a rich cultural universe. The Baniei house also presents another traditional occupation, unfortunately threatened now with extinction, which is the furrier's trade. It exhibits a furrier's workshop from Bulgarian. The furrier's trade was one of the main occupations in Oltenia. Sadly, only a few craftsmen still know it today. The large public has the opportunity of admiring these wonderful creations full of color only in the ethnographic museums. The inventory exhibited here is a traditional workshop that bears the mark of the master furrier's life and gift. The coats were made of sheepskin, while the decorations were made of wool with sheepskin motifs and some of the finest symbols. The exhibition called The Rhythms of Life on the first floor of Baniei House speaks mainly about the existence and relationships of the traditional man in Oltenia. There are presented here relationships and social and religious situations through relevant contrasts, sacred and worldly, material and spiritual, ordinary and festive. A special place is taken by the wedding, presented as an exceptional event, as a threshold, as a passing towards another statute. The Oltenians' wedding is animated thanks to the main characters, and also due to the rituals carried out on the occasion. The bringing of water by the bride on Sunday morning, decorating the wedding fir tree, and carrying the dowry in the nicely embellished wedding cart. We can now admire the men's and women's costumes from all over Oltenia, together with a variety of dowry chests full of an unequal chromatic wealth. All these objects have floral motifs dedicated to the wedded pair, namely the wreath, the fir tree, the garland and the stalk, the flower pot, the live tree, and stylized zoomorphic motifs such as the bird, snake, deer, cat, and the lamb. As the existence of the Oltenian peasant cannot be conceived outside the relationship with God, the next exhibition is called Rustic Religious Objects. The best-known sacred artifacts in the peasant's household have always been the icon in the guest's room, the hearth icon and the seal. The main representations of the peasant iconography are linked to the Christian celebrations and feasts: the birth, the christening, crucifixion, resurrection, Lord's ascension, the birth, and the Virgin's tears. The saints are also represented on the Oltenian icons, especially St. Nicholas, St. Peter, St. Constantine and Helen, St. John, St. Elias, and St. George. Other objects of particular religious meaning in the exhibition are the altar crosses, hand crosses, and last but not least, the painted eggs. The whole is completed by an exhibition of very valuable icons painted on glass, comprising icons from the main iconography centers in Transylvania. Most of the items belong to the 19th century, the oldest of them being an icon from 1835 representing St. George. Perhaps the most exuberant manifestation of the Oltenian peasant's creative spirit is represented by the creation of carpets and traditional cloth. On a scale of popular art values, the carpets, the wall rugs, and the double-faced carpets hold a special place, not only for their originality, color refinement, variety of decorative types and motifs, but also for the consensus of all the social classes in their unanimous appreciation. There is in the house of Baniei an exhibition called Oltenian Wall Rugs and Double-Faced Carpets. As a type of fabric, the wall rug has an old tradition, being the main interior decorative piece in the peasant girl's dowry, being mentioned ever since the 18th century. Making and having wall rugs offered a social prestige to the girls for their technical abilities, while carrying the dowry to the future son-in-law's house represented a real ceremony where each piece is presented to the community. The production of wall rugs, and especially of double-faced carpets, manifests a great freedom of chromatic and ornamental compositional invention, where old and new motives, colors, composition schemes of the rustic aesthetic conception are resumed in a different order and other full of fantasy combinations. Besides old geometrical patterns, we also meet vegetal motifs such as leaves, lilies of the valley, vases with flowers. The ethnography section of the Baniei house holds an exceptional collection of almost 1,000 items of interior fabrics and a few hundred silk handkerchiefs. The interior woven materials in Oltenia express the refinement and ascent to harmony of the Romanian traditional art. This occupation belonged exclusively to women. The wool, cotton, flax, hemp, goat hair were materials which, in the long winter evenings and nights, were used by the Oltenian women peasants to weave masterpieces, most of them of daily utility, such as carpets, curtains, quilts, counterpanes, pillowcases, and handkerchiefs. Everyday life would not have the same charm if music didn't exist. In this respect, the exhibition of traditional musical instruments is but a natural addition to this existence overview in Oltenia. Well-known fiddlers in the Oltenian villages, some famous even beyond national borders, proved to be, throughout history, the real magicians of musical notes, while their fingers made the chords of these forms carved in wood resound, bringing comfort and joy during the sad days on the faces wrinkled by toil of the farmers of Oltenia. Our journey through Oltenia's soul ends here. The house of Baniei, this building charged with history, continues its secular aim, that of offering at present and also to the future generations examples of spirituality of the Oltenian traditions, daily manifestations of a cultural and social heritage that belongs not only to the Oltenians and the Romanians, but also to the entire humanity. The content of this material does not necessarily represent the official position of the European Union.